UFC 310. Few fights we're going to discuss: Doo Ho Choi versus Landwehr, Shavkat and Gary, and then talking a little bit about Crone versus Bryce. Let's first talk about Doo Ho Choi versus Landwehr. It's conflicting, but I'm gonna say it was the most impressive performance of the night against not up to par opposition. So I can look great if I'm fighting my 2-year-old, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm the nicest fighter on earth. That just means that she's nowhere near as nice as me. So if I'm fighting someone that's at the same level, perhaps I won't look so clean. Now, Doo Ho Choi, obviously much nicer than me. He's going to look clean against higher level opposition, but this opposition was just not as clean. So it's always important when we qualify something as like the most technical, efficient performance. Well, what was the opposition looking like? If it's similar level opposition, will it look that clean? So we don't really know. I do think that he can perhaps stand up a little bit more against higher opposition. But let's talk about the actual technical elements. I talk about this a lot. If you guys follow my breakdowns on Instagram, at Boring Breakdowns on Instagram, I talk often about how the high guard, unless it's used very, very appropriately, is one of the least mobile guards. And the thing that you can do to test this out, don't listen to me, test this out, is drop your hands all the way down at your sides and move your head. You can move your head real simple, right? Then put your hands up into a standard guard position. Try to move your head. All right, you can still do it pretty well. Put your hands up on your temples in the high guard position. Try to move your head in the same way. It's going to be significantly more hindered. Why? Because the higher your gloves are, the more difficult it is for you to move around. Now, Nate Landwehr, forgive me if I'm screwing the pronunciation up. Nate has this high guard, doesn't really do much with it, doesn't get the head moving, is practically opening himself up for the body shots, uppercuts, things like that. Now, the commentators talked about all that, which is great. They were dead on. Choi was able to find the uppercuts, the body shots, etc. What did he do prior? And I believe in the opening stanza, you could see this in even just the first few seconds. He didn't just fire upstairs and then that opened the body up and then he shot downstairs. He hit level changes. What did the level changes do? Two things. One, it backed Nate off from that constant stalking. Then two, the level changes with no firing kind of conditions Nate where, okay, well, Choi's just going to level change and then that's it. But then Choi would level change and then fire downstairs, which was something that presumably Nate was not expecting. So again, when someone lands a clean shot, it's more than likely it's not just a clean shot that was landed. It was probably a little bit of setting up, especially in the few seconds leading up to it, several seconds leading up to that shot landing. It was probably some sort of real clean setup, i.e. this type of level changing. So that was clean work from Doo Ho Choi. The other thing that, again, made him, in my opinion, the most impressive fighter of the night, even given that his opposition wasn't necessarily up to par, was the not, and listen please carefully to this, y'all, the not breaking of his stance when he retreated. This is something, and perhaps I'm going to get flack. I believe I talked about it in a recent video as well. Israel Adesanya cannot do this. A lot of other way bigger names cannot do this. This is so important that I feel the need to constantly be harping on it. If you are defensive and you break your posture when you're defensive, what is it, December 6th, 7th? I don't even know what date it is, but it's an early Christmas gift, right? You've given them an early Christmas gift if you break your posture. So what do I mean by that? Choi was real clean at keeping his stance here, and then when he retreated, his stance was here. If you notice, don't look at my hands, don't look at my head. Look at the integrity of my gut. I'm not retreating. like this, where I'm exposing all of my gut right here. So you expose your gut, and now body shots is available. Body shots can set up headshots, etc., and so forth. Choi would keep the gut in that, crouched fighting position and then retreat back, whether it was a hot back, a step back, whatever it may be. That detail there is so important. Now, yes, we got to see, can he do this against higher opposition? If so, good on him. Like he really got game. You know what I mean? But even seeing that against Nate was just clean work. We don't see that type of defensive work and that type of stance integrity out of a lot bigger name fighters. Again, example being Izzy. Izzy break his stance all the time like this. Don't quote me, forgive me, I might have to rewatch the footage, but I believe when he knocked out Robert Whittaker, he knocked Robert Whittaker out. I believe it was a check hook. Forgive me, someone comment if I'm incorrect, but I believe it was a check hook, but fully up on his toes, kind of lean back posture like this. This is not good posture. This is one, biomechanically, is not very easy to generate power when you standing up tall on your toes. Obviously, it's a testament to him. He clearly got some great strength to be able to generate when he has such a poor postural integrity. But then also defensively, you're not in a great position. You can't move well. You out of athletic stance, and you have way too much of a target being open. So not only, again, setting up the body shots with level changes, and then that defensive stance integrity. Beautiful work. Plenty of other things that Choi played that was on point, but those two really, really stood out. Again, I'm gonna give him athlete of the evening, in spite of the opposition. Next, we have Bryce versus Crone. Bryce versus Crone is there's a similar principle that in the next fight that we're going to talk about, was Shavkat versus Gary. First off, in the same way that I can criticize Nate, I can criticize Crone. How are y'all at the highest levels and you're not working what you need to be working on? I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be disrespectful or anything like that. How are you at the highest levels and your stand-up looks like this? You got trainers around you and stuff like that. People recognize your name and things like that. All that tells me is you're not willing to put that time in to really hone the entirety of the craft, and you just worried about, throw that one big shot and then get the fight to where I want to go, as if that's going to happen, as if this is UFC 1. That's not the way this game works no more. You have to be clean. So I'm not trying to go off on a rant, but these are similar principles at play. Nate and Crone have a lot of work to do if they want to go anywhere with it. I have no idea what their intentions are. Maybe they're just trying to get them small, paychecks from the smaller levels and then cut out. Far be it from me to tell them otherwise. However, if you're trying to actually be a big name, you have to work on that. Now, let's talk about the specifics with Crone and Bryce. Bryce being, just sitting in the guard, excuse me, shows a principle that was at play, that was a vital principle in Shavkat versus Ian, pummeling in all different positions. If you guys train, a chest pummeling position where you swimming in and out, underhook, overhook. So y'all know this 50-50, that chest tie, that chest pummeling position. That same dynamic of hand fighting and pummeling for the inside control and things like that is at play when you're on the ground. And we saw for the most part, a straight up workshop, a seminar on how to shut down good jiu-jitsu guys when you're hand fighting, pummeling from the top position. So getting inside controls, locking down the wrist, things like that. These are all great ways to shut down a good jiu-jitsu guy, stay neutral with their hips, things like that, so they can't, shift their hips off for an arm lock and go perpendicular to you so they can get that arm lock. Now, Crone was able to hit this when it was on the cage, so Bryce did get into some trouble. But as he had said, I believe in the post-fight interview, if you fight in the Gracie, keep them off the cage because they can walk up their feet up the cage and then start attacking. But aside from that, when he's neutral, in the middle of the cage, Bryce did an amazing job keeping these inside controls, keeping those monkey grips on the biceps, etc., and so forth. And then obviously the stoppage was great. If you're going to get a guard puller, cross face him, and then spike him on the ground, elbow first. And then the way he set the elbows up, again, beautiful work. But again, I think it also should be said, Crone needs to start remembering that he's not fighting in IBJJF no more. This is a UFC. This is an MMA organization. You have to start getting well-rounded. Now, let's talk about Shavkat and Ian. Now, why did I say that there was this common theme of the hand fighting, the pummeling, et cetera, and so forth? In my opinion, both guys could have done more to show, like a full scale dominance. But there's reasons for it. Sometimes this guy's just not coming in prepared and things like that. This was legitimate roadblocks in people's way that they weren't able to make the adjustments to. And now, first, let's talk about Shavkat's body lock strategy. One of the main ones was getting a high underhook. And what does that do to Ian? When the underhook is kind of pulling him, it leans Ian away from that underhook. And when that lean happens, that heavy lean, and you guys, again, can watch this footage, Shavkat's going to punch that underhook high, make Ian lean over heavy, and then he has this small window of Ian leaned over where Shavkat's going to start pummeling, and it turns into basically a hand fight on just this side because Ian's getting so heavily jacked over in this direction because Shavkat's underhook is here. So Ian can pretty much only fight on this side. Now, if you look at that, it zooms the fight in on just one little area, which is just one arm. It was Ian's, for the most part, excuse me, it was Ian's left arm versus Shavkat's right arm trying to dig an underhook. Now, this is a beautiful strategy. We've seen Shavkat use this before. Excuse me, yo. It turns the fight into a position where you have the athlete with his back on the cage in this constantly defensive position. I would much rather be trying to fight off an underhook like this with my gut upright than like this with my gut heavily leaned over and an underhook under my armpit jacking me up in this direction. It's very uncomfortable to fight for an underhook like that. And this is how Shavkat forced so many of the upper body clinch exchanges. I'm going to make you lean over heavy. Now, to Ian's credit, his underhook defense game, grabbing the wrist, monkey gripping, like that bicep tie, keeping that elbow super tight to the body so Shavkat can't dig an arm underneath the elbow. All of this was so on point. Ian clearly did his homework. The next thing that made Ian very, very tough to take down from these body lock type positions is the head control. Another thing that's so heavily, I don't want to say heavily neglected, but heavily neglected amongst a lot of fighters. A lot of fighters get this chest tie and they're comfortable leaving their head to kind of rest near the fighter's, the opponent's shoulder or next to the opponent's head. Ian was constantly getting that hairline right up in Shavkat's grill. And that makes it very difficult for Shavkat to close that distance and start manipulating. So beautiful work from Ian with that. Next thing that Ian did that made Shavkat have a difficult time closing that distance was all the low line kicking, specifically to Shavkat's lead leg. So a lot of stomping, a lot of low kicking, calf kicking, things like that. Makes you very hesitant to want to close that distance and just haphazardly just engage in wrestling, close the distance, clinch, and take him down. So great work from both guys. Great strategy from Shavkat with that big underhook, and then also great strategy from Shavkat to start firing on the shots on the legs as well. Instead of engaging in this upper body like Greco type clinch and then looking for a takedown because Gary's hips are too good for that, just shooting straight to the legs in those like sweeping type shots, which eventually got him down to the ground. So Beautiful work from both guys, but again, we would have liked to see more. We would have liked to see a little bit more dominance, especially considering the next fight for one of these. I'm assuming Shavkat is probably going to be Bilal. Um, Anyways, guys, thank you so much. Let me know if you have any questions. Comment them below. If you like this video, please share it. Obviously, this channel's these types of monologues are a little bit new, so it would be tremendously helpful if you guys have homies that could benefit from this in the gym, around the way, whatever it may be. Hit them up, send them this link, and thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.